Is the bottom of the Sydney market already in? Why the media's race to the bottom headlines are old news and the auction market finds its floor, and Labor's economic management has backed them into an accidental housing result. Well, g'day folks, it is Matt Hayson here breaking down what is happening right now at the coalface of the Sydney property market. Now here's something that you aren't reading or hearing in the media, but I'm calling it the bottom of the market is already in. Now, if you read the media this week, the headlines, they are thick and they are fast and they are shouting the market has now turned negative nationally. Perth and Brisbane have now turned, and the Sydney and Melbourne markets are locked in a literal race to the bottom. The Cotality data from May claims that Sydney values have fallen 0.9% and are now down 2.1% since November last year. But let me be straight, the data, it massively lags, and the street, well, it never lies. While the media is using the paper data to paint a picture of a market that is in free fall, they're missing what's happening on the ground today. Look at the Sydney auction clearance rates. Last week, the final resting place landed at a brutal 34.4%. Now the media, they are screaming plummet, but here's the real story. That is week 10 in the 30% window, week 10. Now a market that sits at the exact same low level for 10 straight weeks hasn't just crashed, it has now found its floor. It has taken its medicine. Now auctions, they are quiet because the correction, well, it's already baked in. Smart buyers, they didn't wait for permission for the lagging media data and the spreadsheets. They went hard and they went early over the last 2 months, aggressively shaving 10 to even up to 20% of the physical values that we're seeing on the ground. Now the academic experts, they are looking at backward-looking data and they are predicting now a future 10% correction. Now I'm telling you that correction was already extracted into the market on the streets weeks ago. Now the floor, it isn't coming next month. We are already living on it right now. A genuine catalyst for the latest step down in street confidence was the federal budget. Now the Labor government will inevitably try and spin this significant property correction as a stroke of genius, a calculated tactical plan to solve housing affordability for the next generation. But let's call it what it actually is. This is sheer fiscal ineptitude across the entire economy. We're staring down a staggering $1 trillion in national debt. Our national interest bill has ballooned to a massive $25.5 billion per annum. Let that sink in. Australian taxpayers are shelling out $48,489 every single minute just to service our national debt. That is nearly 50 grand a minute disappearing into a black hole, money that isn't going to hospitals, to roads, or actual housing infrastructure. Instead, it's fueling the fire. Inflation, it won't go away. Fair Work increased the minimum wage this week, and while it's still below inflation, it will add fuel to inflationary fire. Meanwhile, the data center boom almost does nothing for broad employment. It sucks energy out of our fractured power grid and is the only thing that's keeping Australia out of a technical recession. We are trapped in stagflation, zero productivity paired with rising inflation. It's news that the RBA won't like to see, and another rate hike this year is live and squarely on the table. Sure, Labor have somehow stumbled onto their ultimate goal of making housing cheaper, but at what cost? People can get onto the property ladder now, but they are significantly poorer at doing so. So is every single Australian holding real estate. When an economy faces this much pressure, buyers are starting to ask defensive questions. Do I need this? Will it make my life better? And what are the financial implications? The immediate result is this: buyers only move when absolute value is staring them in the face. Australia's national residential real estate is monstrous. It's a $12.6 trillion asset class, making up roughly 56% of all household wealth. When property values plummet, the majority of the country instantly feels poorer, freezing consumer confidence across the board. But what about the thousands of young first home buyers who jumped on the government's first home buyer scheme over the past year? It created inflated, artificial demand, and now with Labor's subsequent economic mismanagement, many of these poor folks are holding an asset now trapped in negative equity. Labor is crashing the market around the very people they promised to help. But the kicker is this: the loans are underwritten by, you guessed it, the Australian taxpayer, up to 18% of the property's value. Which brings us back to buyer behaviour and the ultimate takeaway. Just like during COVID, when buyers panicked to the upside, they completely overshot true values and overpaid for property. We've just seen the same psychological swing, but that's happened to the downside. Buyers have panicked, they've overshot the economic conditions and have aggressively hammered property values. Because they have overshot so hard, the conversations we're now having on the ground, right now prove one thing. Buyers are no longer seeing slightly better value, they are seeing substantially better property value. So the takeaway, folks, especially for buyers, is this: don't sit around waiting for the official data and the signals to give you permission to move. By the time the spreadsheets show you the market has turned, the opportunity is already gone. Read the actual street movements, because we are managing the floor of this market, or are very close to it, right here today. So that's what's going down in and around the market this week. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next week.